guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. I am so excited to be sitting down here today filming this video for you guys because today we are going to be celebrating this channel's 5-year anniversary. Yes, 5 years ago on the 29th of January 2019, I posted my very first video, which was my best of 2018 video, where I dived into my top 10 favorite movies of the previous year, and I haven't looked back since. Okay. Over 300 videos later, I have talked to death about hundreds of TV shows and films and topics, okay, and events and awards, and it has just been such a thrill for the last 5 years doing this kind of content on YouTube, and being able to interact with so many of you guys from this online community that we have in our tiny little corner of the internet. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you who have joined me on this little journey online for the last 5 years. So in honor of this very special occasion, a couple of weeks back I asked you guys in a community post to submit some questions for me to answer for today's Q&A. So for today's video, I'm going to be diving into all of those topics that you guys wanted to explore. Thank you so much for sending your questions over. But beforehand, since we're 5 years deep into this online parasocial relationship, I thought this would be a good occasion to give you guys some background on who I am. Who is this woman that you always see online talking about films and TV shows and awards, okay? I wanted to give you guys a little bit more background so that we can get to know each other a little bit better. So if that sounds fun to you, then stay tuned. And like I said, if you're not already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. Join us for another 5 years to come, okay? And once again, huge thank you to each and every one of you who are already subscribed, who do tune into my videos and comment below, share your thoughts on everything. It's really wonderful getting to interact with you guys from all around the world. It's so special to me and I really appreciate it. To another 5 years. Okay, so let's dive into some background. I don't really know how to do this because I don't have a script. It's kind of weird talking about yourself. But hi, my name is Jean. Okay, I am the Jean of Jean's Movie Chats, of course. And I'm currently 27 years old. And I am an in-betweener, okay, in between the millennials and the Gen Zers. I consider myself more of a Gen Z, not because I want to feel young. I don't care about that, I promise you. Just because I identify more with Gen Z stuff. Like the millennials are kind of over there for me. But there is some overlap for sure. So let me know where your cutoff point is for the Gen Z millennial discussion. Because y'all are arguing over it. I'm not really. I don't really mind. But I do have experience from, both generations that I can relate to. So yeah, I'm an in-betweener. Now, in terms of my personal background, many of you guys already know this because I talk about this all the time, but I am a Londoner, okay? I do live in London for now, okay? With these rent prices, I'll be out soon, very soon. But for now, I am still a Londoner, but my family and I are originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Yes, there are 2 Congos, okay? And funnily enough, my jumper kind of mirrors the flag of my Congo, which is the Democratic Republic of Congo, not the Republic of Congo. The Democratic Republic of Congo was colonized by the Belgians. If you know anything about Leopold II, then you know how horrific that was. The Republic of Congo was colonized by the French. So the European imperialists divided us up, okay? But my family is from East Congo, which, if you know anything about Africa, you'll know is going through a tough time right now. Yay! But not to delve in too much on that, but a lot of my, background and personal experiences definitely color the way that I see media, the way that I review films. One of the reasons why I'm always such a huge proponent of diversity and representation in media is because obviously it affects me personally. So I do love the general movement that we are making towards pushing more diversity and representation, especially the phenomenon that I often refer to as the diversification of Black representation, which is the idea that, you know, Black representation has existed for a long time, but we have gotten the same kinds of Black representation in the past. Okay, we've gotten Black people as slaves, as maids, as butlers, as servants, Black people struggling, Black people, you know, being sad and oppressed. And whilst these stories are really important, and, you know, it does help to raise awareness for what has happened in the past and what continues to happen to this day, so that is really important to have. But as I always say, it's really important to have diversity in the representation that we are getting for Black people and other underrepresented groups, so that we have stories about happy Black people, about successful Black people, about, you know, underwhelming and normal Black people, because they're also out there. I'm one of them. They're also out there. Okay, it's not always Black excellence every single day. Okay, so that is something that I'm really passionate about, and I, you know, talk about that often on my channel. And so yeah, you know, my life experiences definitely color the way that I see media, and that's one of the major reasons why I wanted to start this channel to begin with, is because I saw so few people who looked like me kind of reviewing films, especially major blockbusters and franchise movies like Marvel films. Oftentimes the space is occupied by white men. Okay, and I would say, you know, the biggest female reviewer on this platform, Grace Randolph, arguably, is still a white woman. Okay, so they have their perspectives because their life experiences color the way that they see the world, and therefore media. So whilst oftentimes I'll agree and disagree on a surface level, there will be times when, especially dealing with like Black media or media from underrepresented groups, you'll notice the unconscious biases that a lot of these reviewers have, and because they're not able to relate to that kind of media on that level, that's when I started recognizing the gap, you know, the gap in understanding, and why it's so important for there to be diversity, not just in front of the camera, but also behind, also in the articles, also in the reviews, because there are certain things that are missed by others when you don't have that lived in experience that is trying to be shown in the film or TV show. All that's to say that I think I do bring a bit of a unique perspective as a Black British female reviewer on this platform, and I've seen comments like this throughout the years, saying that you appreciate that, and that just means the absolute world to me. Okay, it means the world to me when you guys, you know, say this and recognize this, and I'm just so happy to lend my little 2 cents into the conversation. But of course, I'm not the only Black female reviewer on the platform. We also have people like Sharonda from Pay Your Weight, who was one of my big inspirations to start my channel in the first place. I used to watch her reviews all the time, and I was such a big fan, and she really inspired me to just get on that platform, okay? To get on youtube.com and film my videos. Now, another major motivator for me joining YouTube and, you know, starting this content creation journey was just the stage that I was at in life 5 years ago. Ooh, we're gonna get personal, not too personal, but yes, roughly 5 years ago, I graduated from law school. Yes, I did. I studied law with politics at the University of Manchester. Shout out to Manchester. And, you know, it was a really tough degree, and it's a pretty prestigious university. It is in the Russell Group, which here in the UK, that is the kind of British equivalent to the Ivy League. So yeah, like your girl is learned. And a lot of what I learned about essay writing and case analysis has kind of translated into my movie reviews, interestingly enough, which is why my videos are so long and so detailed, which some of you guys appreciate, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, that is the reason why I'm so methodical, is because I've been trained in law. But 5 years ago, when I graduated from uni, I really struggled to find work in the legal field. Oh, it was so so tough. Honestly, it was one of the worst experiences of my life, coming fresh out of university with this law degree and wondering what the heck I'm supposed to do with it, because the job market was just so goddamn awful. People weren't looking for fresh graduates, you know, they wanted people who were graduates but also had at least 5 years of experience, and so you could just hit the ground running. A lot of these companies and firms just didn't want to train anyone, they just wanted people who were already ready made. And so you're in this cycle of like, well, I don't have experience, I'm a fresh graduate from uni, so how am I supposed to get any experience if no one takes a chance on me? Like, how am I supposed to do how am I supposed to do that? So yeah, it was such a crappy job market, and it still is, unfortunately. I really feel for the graduates out there because it is tough, you know, just coming straight out of uni, especially if you have limited work experience. And you know, I had done all of the extracurriculars. You know, I tried to get some work experience during the summer breaks and the holiday breaks. I had done what I was supposed to, but it was still a huge struggle. And during that time, I went through very low mood and depression. I was just really upset because I was struggling so much trying to find a job after graduation. So one of the things that consistently brought me such joy and such happiness was film and television. Okay, escapism, yes. Because in the times when I was taking a break from all of these applications and looking at all of these rejections or non-responses, I was able to check out, you know, films, the latest Marvel film or the latest Netflix series. And then when everything wrapped up, I would have these internal conversations with myself within my own brain, you know, kind of discussing what I thought of the film. You know, did I enjoy it, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. So I was essentially just reviewing these movies and TV shows in my own mind, okay? You know, during the shower, when I'm having dinner, I would just always be thinking about this. And sometimes I would have conversations with friends about these kinds of things, but honestly, my friends weren't as into the entertainment industry as I was. So the conversations would usually just kind of drift away and we would discuss other things, even though I still had ideas buzzing in my mind and I wanted to go further. But yeah, I didn't want to suck out all the oxygen in the air, so we needed to move on. And so, you know, after umming and ahhing about it, and after being really, really sad and depressed about my job situation, I decided to take matters into my own hands and create a YouTube channel. So really, this YouTube channel was born out of a real love for film and television and for discussing it and digging into it, analyzing it, but also from a place of sadness and depression because of the job situation post graduating. And over the last 5 years, I've been through all of these different roller coasters in life, but it has just been so comforting and reassuring knowing that I have this channel, this platform, to just talk about something that I really, really love and really, really enjoy, and to see so many of you guys from all around the world. That's what kills me. From all around the world kind of coming to this channel, relating, agreeing with me, disagreeing with me. Oh, on my latest video, I talked about Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and I've seen the comments and a lot of you guys disagree with my take. Many of you probably won't be watching this video anyway because you loudly declared that you are not interested in what I have to say, which is fair enough. But you guys need to know that even if you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. As long as you're not rude or racist or aggressive or mean, I do not mind, you know, people who disagree with me. I love opening up the conversation. And so I appreciate whenever you guys share your thoughts, especially if you do so in a kind and respectful manner. That is just absolutely brilliant, and I'm more than happy to engage with that. So yeah, over the past 5 years, 300 plus videos. I think it's almost at 400. I haven't checked in a while. But we have been through a lot together. I've been through a lot myself, but I'm really happy to say that I am in a better place right now. I'm not in my end goal, in my end destination. When you see the change in backdrop, when you see me, moving to a mansion, okay, then you'll know that I'm at my end goal, okay? I'm still figuring things out, but I'm happy to say that I'm in a much better place mentally, physically, emotionally, than I was 5 years back. And I also want to say this because to anyone going through a tough time at the moment, okay, just know that these things are not permanent. Things can change, okay? As I said, 5 years ago, I didn't see a way out. I was like, how am I supposed to start my life, start my career, this career that I was promised, for 3 years in law school? How am I supposed to start when no one wants to take a chance on me? And it took a lot of hard work, a lot of trying and failing and getting rejected or ignored time and time again. But I finally managed to break through. And once you have one piece of experience, you can kind of build it up. This is kind of career advice. But, there is a way to break through if you just give yourself a chance to find it. And it may involve taking a break. You can't constantly be on the grind. It's just not good for you mentally. And also it just won't work. Because if you're doing the same thing and getting the same results, then you need to switch things up. So whatever has got you stuck, if you are stuck at the moment, maybe you need to take a step back. Maybe you need to rethink things. Either way, just know that it's not the end, okay? It is not the end, because there's always a chance, there's always an opportunity for you to move forward, and you will have, happier times. You will have a breakthrough. Just believe in yourself and keep pushing through, and also keep yourself informed. Just suck up all of that good information that we have on this here internet. Filter through the nonsense. Filter through the nonsense, but there is a lot of good information on whatever topic you need help with. And also reach out to people in your life as well, not just, people online. But, I found the internet to be really, really helpful. Again, once you filter out the nonsense. So yeah, be sure to lean on that as a resource as well if you can. And also allow yourself, like I said, a break, a relief, an escape. For me, that was film and television and making this channel and putting on this makeup and having fun. And, hopefully for you guys, you can find something that brings you that kind of joy as well. So push through, guys. We're gonna make it, okay? We're gonna make it through. But yes, that's it from me in terms of my backstory and why I started this channel. And now let's dive into you guys' questions. Okay, so when it comes to the questions that I got from the community post, I tried to kind of group them together so we can dive into, similar topics at the same time. The first question up is pretty separate. And so I thought I would jump in here straight away because it's related to my backstory. And this is by Andy Uso. Hi, Andy. Apologies if I mispronounce anyone's name during this, by the way. But the first question says, how do you balance law school or practicing law with your YouTube channel? So like I said, this is relevant to what I was just talking about with my career. And as I mentioned, I actually graduated from law school in 2018. So I've already done that, already wrapped up the law with politics degree. And since then, I was just, trying to find a job in the legal field. I managed to do that, and I was working in the legal field for a few years, but it wasn't really the field of law that I originally wanted to go into. I ended up in, kind of mixture, family, employment, all sorts of different things. But I had most of my legal experience in family law. And I actually dove into this a little bit in my review of that Netflix series Maid, which starred Margaret Qualley. But that series dove into domestic abuse, and I talked about how I was working in a law firm that kind of specialized in that. So I worked there for some time, and that's why I take domestic abuse matters very, very seriously. Okay, I've seen the way it ruins lives, but over time, dealing with domestic abuse cases started to wear on me, and it was just detrimental to my mental health. So I decided to switch routes, okay, and go down a different avenue. And right now I'm pursuing a career in project management. Yes, yes, she is. Okay, so we've gone away from law entirely. We're delving into project management instead. In terms of the question, how do I balance this? I don't. The answer is I don't. I'm bad at balancing it, actually. I have a nightmarish filming schedule. I beat myself up about it all the time because I feel like I should be reviewing things as soon as they come out, as soon as I'm able to, especially when it comes to this kind of content. The sooner the better, and oftentimes the bigger channels will have access to screenings and to screeners, so they're able to watch things in advance and then post their reviews as soon as, or even before, the film or TV show is released. I need to look into getting screeners and screenings. Okay, like I really should, but to your point, it is a bit of a struggle balancing both. But also, to be honest, because I do genuinely love films and TV shows, even outside of YouTube, sometimes I just feel like taking my time. Taking my time with something. And so it is kind of frustrating that you do have to be really on the ball and really, really fast when it comes to releasing reviews, because it feels like you can't really enjoy something at your own leisure anymore. But at the same time, I do want to be able to review things as quickly as possible so that I can share my thoughts with you guys. Some of you guys have even said that you wait for me to review something before checking it out yourself. And so I take that responsibility really seriously, and I need to look into getting screeners. But yeah, that kind of changes things. So to answer your question, Andy, sometimes it's a bit of a struggle, but I tend to film my reviews very late at night or during the weekends, so that I can have at least somewhat of a weekly schedule and post things on Sundays and Mondays, early weekday situation. Whilst also giving you guys time to breathe, because my videos are so long that I don't want to bombard you with like 45-minute videos every single day. So I hope that works, but it's constantly a work in progress. Okay, so now we have a few questions from my good friend Mystique. Okay, hello Mystique. Sometimes your name pops up as Daphne, but I'm not sure which one you want to go by. But hi there. So I have 5 questions here from them. And number 1 is, when and where did you get your love of movies and TV shows? Some of you guys asked this question as well, so I thought I'd tackle it here. I've always loved films and TV shows. I've always been a huge fan. Growing up, especially when I moved to London when I was about 2 years old, we only had the 5-channel TV package, which here in the UK is like BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, Channel 4 and Channel 5. That's all we had for a good 7 years before we moved house. So my TV show experiences when I was younger was quite limited, but I used to love watching, the kids channel, CITV, CBBC in the morning and then straight after school. And the last shows of the day that I was allowed to watch before it turned into like adult stuff was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which technically was like adult stuff, but my mum allowed it because it was black people. And secondly, The Simpsons. Once The Simpsons hit, it was time for me to head off, do my homework, okay, and go to sleep. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed TV. And then when it came to films, we had a bunch of cassettes. That's how I would enjoy my films. So films like Hercules, which I often talk about, is a favorite of mine. Films like Mulan, the Spice Girls movie. Oh my goodness, I loved it. Oh, a masterpiece. I should do a video about that. I loved the Spice Girls movie. Oh, please. That film is a classic. That film went triple platinum in this household, okay? So yeah, the Spice Girls movie. I also remember my parents watching Titanic a lot, although they would always send me to go get some water during the spicier scenes. But yeah, there are certain films that are just like a staple of my early 2000s childhood, that I just you know, remember to this day and hold with great reverence. And that was where the love of film and television was born, I guess. And then the first film I remember seeing in the cinema, I'm pretty sure it's the first film that I saw in the cinema in general, was, drum roll, you'll never guess what it was, but it was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Yes, I saw that film in cinemas and it terrified me, horrified me. I think I was what, like 5, 7, 8, 6, something something along those lines, and I was absolutely terrified by the Dementors. I could not handle the Harry Potter franchise. Okay, so yeah, I've never been a huge Harry Potter fan, but that was the first film that I saw in cinemas, or at least to my memory. Okay, so the next question up is, if you were the head of your own production company, what kind of movies or stories would you greenlight? It can be adaptations of books you enjoy or anything. This is a brilliant question, and I'm afraid that I won't be able to do it justice. First of all, books. I don't read books. I don't read books. I'm so sorry. I am a learned person, okay? Like, I read all of the law books, politics books. That's the thing about me. I tend to veer towards non-fiction when it comes to reading. So I do a lot of that. Growing up, I read a lot of fan fiction. Oh, fan fiction. Fan fiction were my books, okay? But in terms of like classic fiction books, don't do a lot of that, especially post my vampire era. Because there was a time where I read a ton of books, noughts and crosses, a bunch of vampire books, a bunch of like romance novels as well, like when I was a teenager. You know, the Meg Cabot, I think, was her name Meg Cabot? You know, those books as well. Princess Diaries, the writer of Princess Diaries. Yeah, I read a ton of those. Jacqueline Wilson, if you're from the UK, you know. You know, Jacqueline Wilson is the gateway to reading books in the UK. But nowadays, I tend to read, you know, non-fiction. In terms of what I would greenlight aside from book adaptations, honestly, just more stories about Black British people. Shocker. But yeah, I want to see more stories about us. I think there's a lot of work to be done when it comes to representation in Hollywood, for sure. But if you think Hollywood's bad, then just come over to the UK. Ooh, because, you know, representation for our people, for us immigrants in the UK is very few and far between. Things have been getting better over the last few years, which is why I always say this is like the best time for entertainment. This is genuinely the very best time. Like, entertainment has never been better in my eyes, okay? And we still have so far to go. So I'm just excited about what's to come when we see these new filmmakers and artists, you know, showing up on our screens. It brings me such joy. So I would greenlight more movies and TV shows focused on Black British people and other British immigrants, like, for instance, Polite Society. Daniel Kaluuya recently had his directorial debut on Netflix with The Kitchen, which was a great film. Also Chewing Gum, the Michaela Cole classic, a phenomenal series, as well as Some Girls, the BBC series from a few years back, like a decade back now. And you also had Steve McQueen's Small Axe series, which was centered on the Caribbean community in the UK in the mid to late 20th century, and I did a whole series of reviews for that limited series as well. So that's what I would like to see more of. And if I could propose a specific idea, this is crazy, this is wild, because listen to this, right? So I was thinking about how I was going to answer this question, and I was like, oh, I've got it, this is my grand idea. I want a British Abbott Elementary series. That's right, like, the US is always stealing British shows. I want to switch it up, okay, and make a British version of Abbott Elementary. But instead of an elementary school, it would be set in an all-girls, preferably, but there could be boys there as well if you have to have them, okay? But it has to be a Catholic school. You have to have uniforms, and it has to be a secondary school. This is what I want. Basically, I want them to do my secondary school experience, but in the Abbott Elementary style. And I kid you not, I was thinking about this weeks ago, even before I was trying to answer this question, okay? And in my mind, I had cast one of the few white people who would be on on this show, mind you, Cillian Murphy as one of the teachers. In my, I had done this. And you see the power of manifestation, because why did I just hear? Why did I just hear that he is going to be playing a head teacher in some kind of Netflix movie or series about schools and that? Like, why did I just hear that that's actually happening in real life? You see how I manifested that? You see how I manifested that? And also, side note, this is completely different, but another manifestation was I was thinking about there being a new adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, okay, where perhaps either Timothée Chalamet or Tom Holland would play Romeo. And why was it then that a few days ago it was announced that Tom Holland would be going back on stage to the West End to portray Romeo? Like, you see the power of my manifestation? I don't think you guys are understanding how crazy this is. But yeah, so that would be my big pitch, to do a British version of Abbott Elementary and cast a bunch of incredibly brilliant and talented British immigrant actors and filmmakers. And then alongside, you can have Cillian Murphy as like the sole white person. The next question we've got is, who are your favorite underrated directors, actors, and writers? There are so many. There are so many. Honestly, unfortunately, most of the time, the underrated, actors, directors, writers are the people of color working in the industry, right? Like, they tend to be the ones that aren't getting the hype or the same level of press and success as their white peers. So for instance, we have Amara Asante, who is a Black British female director who directed Belle, for instance, starring Gugu Mbatha Raw. We also have Gina Prince Blythewood, who directed one of my favourite films from recent times, The Woman King from last year. And in terms of actresses, we have Lashana Lynch. Lashana Lynch is so endlessly talented. Again, I'm a ride or die Lashana Lynch fan, as many of you guys will know. She should have been nominated for The Woman King, like, absolutely, without question. When I think about actresses like Emily Blunt getting nominated for Oppenheimer, and then I remember that Lashana Lynch wasn't even given a nod for The Woman King, that's when I know that this is all a joke. Like, that's when I know when this is all a racist, ridiculous joke by Hollywood. But then it's not just black people that I think are underrated. I also think George Mackay, I've said this many times, George Mackay from 1917 and recently from the small movie Femme, he is really underrated as an actor and he's absolutely brilliant. Before 2023, I would have said Cillian Murphy. Absolutely underrated as an actor, and the fact that he was never even nominated for an Emmy for his work on Peaky Blinders is one of the greatest mysteries of all time, actually. It still remains to this day one of the greatest mysteries of all time. But yeah, he would definitely be one, again, before the Oppenheimer hype. Daniel Bruhl, I think, is really, really underrated as an actor. Sam Rockwell, I recently talked about how much of a fan I am of him. And then I just have here kids in Hollywood. There are some brilliant, talented children working in this damn industry that never get any respect or due. Like, for instance, child actors in Moonlight, in Room, I think it was Jacob Tremblay, I remember his name at least. And the kid from Anatomy of a Fall recently, he was absolutely brilliant, and they just never get any credits, or even any awards nominations, which I think is a shame, because they are absolutely deserving, even if they are young. If they gave a killer performance, why not reward that? Next up, we have, outside of directors, writers, and actors, what other professions do you think should get more love / support in making a movie or a TV show? Everyone. Everyone else, honestly, set designers, cinematographers. I don't think people understand the role of a cinematographer when it comes to movie making and TV show making. Even I don't fully understand, to be honest. But they are crucial. Like, they are absolutely crucial. There'll be instances where the director's not even in the room. Like, the director's not even there. The director's off, having an off day, having tea, coffee, whatever. And the cinematographer, the DP, is there, holding it down. So I don't think people really understand how crucial cinematographers are. And a good cinematographer can take something something that's mucky, crappy, underwhelming, and you know, put it into the next level. Okay, so yeah, I think cinematographers should absolutely get more credit, but everyone, you know, set designers, prop masters, everyone involved in hair, makeup, costuming, just everyone. This is such a miracle that any film is made when you consider all of the, you know, pieces that are involved in putting this thing together. It's honestly a wonder that we get anything, and let alone anything good. Okay, but I think everyone involved in this miraculous process deserves so much more credit and recognition than they get. But instead, we have, you know, directors and actors in particular who have to be the face of the production. And it's their job, you know, it's on them to really sell the hard work that a lot of the people behind the scenes have done. And the last question from Mystique is, what were your top 5 favorite movies or TV shows when you were a child? You guys know that I'm a Libra. And as a Libra, I find it impossible to choose a small number, pick a small number of things. It's gotten worse over the years. It hasn't even improved, okay? But top 5, yeah, there's no way. There's literally no way that I can do that. But I do have a sprinkling of some things here. So from childhood, Hercules, absolutely. Mulan, the Pokemon movie. Oh my god, the Pokemon movie, which I had on cassette, and it was a yellow cassette. Okay, back when things were fun, back when things were colorful. Okay, but the Pokemon movie, I used to watch that on repeat. It used to make me cry all the time. Spice Girls movie, as I said. The Simpsons, as I said. And a Jungle Run. There was a CITV series from the early 2000s called Jungle Run. If you're from the UK and you're from this era, then you probably know what I'm talking about. That was that was perfection. That was a great kids competition series that I loved. And then when I started getting more TV, more channels on my TV, I loved Totally Spies, That's So Raven, Lizzie McGuire, all of the Disney Channel shows, Sweet Life, Kim Possible, Recess, and also some of the Nickelodeon shows. I was less of a Nickelodeon girly, but I liked, you know, iCarly and Victorious, kind of. Big Time Rush, kind of. Okay, so next up we have a question from Jocelyn. Hi, Jocelyn. And they asked, please tell us about the movies that made you a film girly. Okay, anything you watched growing up that made you go, yep, that's cinema. So I already mentioned the kind of movies and TV shows that I was watching up until the age of like 10 or so. So there wasn't really like one specific film that made me go, yep, that's cinema. But I did grow up watching awards shows as well. Like I would tune in to the BAFTAs and Oscars and that. And I also went through phases over the years where I was obsessed with like a specific genre. So there was a time when I loved, you know, everything vampire. Like, actually, no, I would say, you know, from my preteen times, it was the High School Musical franchise had a chokehold on me. And then I swiftly moved on to the Twilight franchise. And then I swiftly moved on to the Marvel franchise. And now I'm honestly lost at sea. I don't know. I don't know where else to go. I'm still on Marvel. But yeah, now I just have an appreciation of everything. And then somewhere along the line, I was also obsessed with rom-coms. So that was also a thing. I've watched a bunch of rom-coms, especially the ones from the early 2000s. So yeah, there hasn't really been a specific kind of film that made me, you know, appreciate cinema and the arts form. I've just really loved the medium for years and years and years. So the next question I have is from Daniel Salinas, and they asked, what are some interests and hobbies that you have outside of film and television? This is a wonderful question. Thank you so much. Because as much as I love film and TV, the second that I started a YouTube channel, it kind of became a job. Like, it kind of became an unpaid job. And so I did need to dig deeper to find other hobbies and interests to kind of take a break from even the thing that gives me escapism. So one thing that I've really gotten into recently, has been trains. Listen, okay, hear me out, hear me out. I've always loved history. I've always really enjoyed learning about history at school and also in other places like museums. I go to museums all the time. In fact, I went to one today. I went to the Design Museum in Holland Park here in London. A beautiful museum, although the exhibits weren't too interesting. I went to the fashion exhibit that's sponsored by Alexander McQueen. That was great, but everything else is a bit like technical for me as someone who's not a designer. But yeah, I love museums, love learning, especially about history and culture. And during the pandemic especially, I really got into trains. I started getting recommended these channels like, hold on, I've written it down. Jago Hazard, I think the channel is. Love that channel. Okay, he has amazing facts about the London Underground, the history of the London transport system and the national transport system. He is partially the reason why I have this current job, which is, you know, all to do with transport as well. So yeah, has literally changed my life, this guy. So huge fan of his work. Then you also have Jay Foreman and Jeff Marshall, who are just like the icons of the transport sector here on YouTube. But yeah, so I'm a train girly, I'm a train nerd. Like, would you have imagined? Another time-honored hobby and love that I've had for many years, over a decade now, is makeup. I love makeup, okay, as you can probably tell. I absolutely love makeup, and in fact I remember a friend of mine who watches my videos. She asked me about the books that I was currently reading, because she said, oh, I always see the books in the background of your YouTube videos. Like, what are you reading, girl? And I was like, sis, these aren't books. These are eyeshadow palettes. Like, literally, if you look behind here, so this is like a more recent purchase. This is a Danessa Myricks Lightworks 4 palette, which I actually have some on my eyes. But like, yeah, these are all eyeshadow. These are all eyeshadow palettes. Look how stunning this is. Look how beautiful this is. It's crazy. Anyway, if you're into makeup, let's talk. But yeah, all of these are eyeshadow palettes. The Juvia's Place one. I don't really use this one too often. But yeah, they're all eyeshadow palettes. There's no books. I literally have like 3 shelves worth of eyeshadow palettes. We have a few Pat McGrath palettes here. This is the Mothership 3. Here we go. I have the Mothership 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. Like, I have like a bunch of Pat McGrath palettes here. Let me see, which one is this one? This is the Mothership 9. Beautiful palette. As you can see, I often use this blue shade here, which is like a duochrome situation. This is really stunning. So yeah, oftentimes I like to play around with makeup, and that's another reason why I really love this channel, is I'm able to kind of combine my 2 passions, which is makeup, coming up with different looks, oftentimes matching what I'm reviewing, which I've gotten so many comments on over the years, and they fill me with joy. And yeah, whilst also talking about films and TV shows, which I love very much. Okay, so next up we have a question from Mark. Hi Mark. And Mark asked, what are your top 5 TV shows of all time and top 5 movies of all time and top 5 actors of all time? Mark, this is an impossible task. This is an impossible task. Even if I wasn't a Libra, this would be tough, but I am one, so it's impossible. I've kind of cheated though. I did think about your question, and I've decided to redefine the terms, okay, as a good lawyer would. And instead I've done my top 5 movies of 2017, because of course I started my channel off with the best of 2018, so I didn't get a chance to review, you know, the movies from years prior. And I thought I'd jump in here and sprinkle in 2017 options, okay? So at number 5, we have Paddington 2. At number 4, we have Thor Ragnarok. At number 3, we have Pixar's Coco. At number 2, we have Netflix's Mudbound, one of the most underrated films of the last decade, okay? And at number 1, we have one of my favorite films of all time. I guess I'm kind of answering your question in the form of Get Out. I couldn't do top 5 TV shows because like I could it was just impossible. I'm so sorry. But I did try to do top 5 actors. and then I remembered more actors, so that also flopped. But I have a list. I have a list here. Okay, so get ready for this. We have, in no particular order really, Viola Davis, Daniel Kaluuya, Mahershala Ali, Cillian Murphy, Kate Winslet, Christian Bale, Jodie Comer, Michaela Cole, Lupita Nyong'o, Lashana Lynch, Samuel Jackson, Claire Foy, Olivia Colman, Idris Elba, Regina King, and Lakeith Stanfield. There are definitely more that I've probably forgotten, but yeah, I hope that answers your question. So then next up, we have a couple of questions from Sleepy. Hi, Sleepy! And they asked, what shows or movies do you rewatch or go back to when you need something warm and familiar? This is a brilliant question. I have to say, in more recent years, especially since starting the channel, I don't tend to rewatch things as often as I used to, and that's mostly because I have this like constant pressure or constant feeling that I'm missing out if I'm rewatching something. And I know that other people feel this way even if they don't have a YouTube channel, and it's just because of how much is coming out these days that you constantly feel like I need to move on to the next thing. I need to move on to the next thing. Even if you really enjoy something, you scarcely kind of revisit it because there's always something new to check out. So that's what I've been struggling with in the last few years when it comes to content consumption. But there are still some shows, especially, that I like to rewatch. But back in the day, I used to rewatch a lot of things. I used to rewatch the rom-coms that I was obsessed with. I used to rewatch a lot of the Twilight movies, High School Musical, all of the stuff that I talked about before, and a lot of the Marvel movies, especially the first Avengers film. I've watched over 15 times easily. I used to rewatch that a lot. I think the last film that I rewatched constantly was probably the first Kingsman movie, which I've seen time and time again. But since then, rewatching has been a little bit rarer, especially for movies. For TV shows, there are still shows that I love to rewatch, actually, even though it tends to take longer to rewatch them. I have a few listed here. I've rewatched The Crown several times, especially the first 2 seasons with Claire Foy, okay. I've watched Hyde Park Corner, episode 2 of season 1 of The Crown many times. I think it's one of the very best episodes of television ever created, and I'm planning on doing some kind of video about that as well in the future, hopefully. Also, Peaky Blinders. This will come as a shock to no one. This will come as a shock to no one. I've watched Peaky Blinders like 5 times from start to finish, at least. So yeah, huge fan of that show. Also, there were a few shows that I rewatched a bunch of times when I first got Disney Plus a few years back, and that included That's So Raven. I rewatched the entirety of That's So Raven. That was the first thing that I did when Disney Plus came along, and it's still excellent. It's still to this day, it's still brilliant. Like, it blows my mind. Like, how did Raven not just win a bunch of Emmys? Because she was literally that girl. Some of these other girlies weren't as talented as her. Like, some of these other girlies weren't doing it like her. Anyway, it's crazy. But That's So Raven is still brilliant. I also rewatched Recess, which is, so flipping iconic. An amazing animated series that was really ahead of its time. I also rewatched Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which I talked about a couple of times. But yeah, that was, I think, the very best Avengers-based animated series of the last decade or so. I mean, it was so brilliant, and I would have loved to have seen more, but alas, they decided to switch things up to be more in line with the MCU. And even though Avengers Assemble, the series, was cool, especially for the first season, it just was nowhere near as rich when it came to the storytelling, even if I did prefer Avengers Assemble's animation style to some extent. Also, some shows that I love to rewatch, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I've rewatched that series like multiple times. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt is one of my favorite comedies of recent years, easily. It's Always Sunny. I can turn on any episode, and it's a guaranteed laugh. Like, do you know how crazy that is? But yeah, Always Sunny is always a shout for me. The Bear, that will come to no one's surprise. I've rewatched The Bear several times. Listen, I'm a glutton for punishment. Like, and I will rewatch it again before season 3 comes along. And speaking of rewatching before season 3, Bridgerton season 2, only season 2. Only season 2. I've watched season 1 a couple, well, 3 times maybe, a couple of times. But when season 2 hit, that was the only story I needed to see. Again and again and again. Okay, I wanted to see that Kate Anthony love story again, so I've rewatched that several times. And then Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I've rewatched a few times as well. There's a bunch of comedies that I've rewatched a few times, so I tend to lean in that direction. And then the next question from Sleepy is, do you have any pets? And if so, would you like any in the future? And unfortunately, no, unless you count my 2 younger brothers. So yeah, I don't have any pets, but I absolutely would love some in the future. I am planning on getting basically the dogs that I had in Nintendogs. Okay, walk with me here, okay? Because I used to have a Nintendo DS Lite in pink. Oh, okay. And I used to play Nintendogs. And on that game, I had this dog called Alice, who was a King Charles Cavalier. And I basically want to bring her to life. Like, that's my plan for the future, is to bring her to life. So that's the first dog that I would get. I also had a dachshund called Max, or was it Phantom or something? Anyways, I want to bring those dogs to my real life, to my real world. Okay. And finally, the last question of the day is from Gone. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. But they asked, do you ever see any Nollywood or Bollywood content? And if so, what movies or TV shows from those industries have you enjoyed? So apologies, but I'm going to have to end this on a down note because I haven't watched much Nollywood or Bollywood at all. The closest I've come to is, I guess, watching Collywood. Collywood content, which is basically, you know, melodramas and series from Congo, from the DRC, that my mum used to get DVDs of from the Congolese food shop in Dalston Market. So yeah, we used to watch those as a family. Those were fun and wild. They were very similar to Nollywood movies, or at least the way Nollywood movies used to be before they got a budget. Now they're all glam. Okay, now they've got a budget and like they've moved past that era. But yeah, I've seen bits and pieces from Nollywood content, but not a lot, I'm afraid. And the same for Bollywood as well. The closest I came to is watching RRR last year, but apparently that's not a Bollywood film. It's from another sort of region in India, so it doesn't really count, I'm afraid. Sorry. But I do really love watching African movies and shows that are on Netflix. I think one of Netflix's greatest legacies, the greatest things that it's ever done in this industry, is giving these international film and TV show markets a platform. Like, I think that's one of Netflix's greatest accomplishments. It's truly phenomenal that we get to see all this content from all over the world and it can just blow up and become so popular. So for instance, we have Blood and Water. Blood and Water from South Africa, okay? One of my favorite shows of the last few years. But yeah, that is a huge hit on the platform, and it's because Netflix has this ability to tap into all of these international entertainment markets and share them across the world in a way that no other streaming platform so far can. But that's it from me, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who sent over their questions. I hope I did them justice, even though I cheated on a few of them. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for joining me on my 5-year journey on YouTube. Wherever it is that you came in, I really appreciate you, and I just really love having this channel and having this community where we can talk about films and TV shows and life sometimes. It means the world to me, and so thank you to another 5 years. So once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.